Hi, this is Zach here with a weekend edition of the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe. It is Saturday, the 19th of July. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which is near to the top of that rising trend channel, which has been in place quite a long time now, actually, since basically March last year. And if you, or at least on the support line side, the March the year before that. But the current situation is that we've been looking for a move to the top of the channel there at 90.50 by the end of this month, so a few days to go, a little bit of upside left, and we can get through 90.50. Then the next level up would be 92.30, which is the top of that rising red trend channel there from back in May, so an acceleration to the upside. On the downside, 89.10 was the June resistance area. That's also the floor of the channel, so hopefully that will stem any losses. Worst case is a rug pull down to the 50-day line, 87.96, but given that we've been above that 50-day line since the beginning of May, it looks as though, unless something very horrible happens, we are heading higher. Moving on to the DAX, and here position is that we've got this market bouncing like the FTSE above the 50-day line there. In this case, it's at 23,900 above that. We're looking for the top of the rising trend channel from back in the spring of 2024, heading as high as 25,100. Still looking for that by the end of this month, but obviously, given that we are a bit slow at the moment, might have to wait until the early August. The other point to note is that the RSI has bounced at and above neutral 50 for three times, so on three occasions so far this month. So this is still a very strong market. On to the Dow, and a bit of a rug pull this market had midweek with the dip below 44,000, but you can see from that hammer candle, didn't really like it below 44,000, so we are in a range between 44,000, 45,000, and you could argue that this is actually a bull flag, and a break of the recent resistance around 44,600 could then take us up to a top price channel target there as high as 47,400 or 500 even by the end of next month, while we're above the 44,000 area. We've already had our golden cross, and RSI is above neutral 50 at 59, so it looks as though we are set fair on this market, especially while we're on the right side of 44,000. Moving on to Bitcoin, and here the market at the moment by quite some distance. And what you can see here is that we've got this consolidation 115 to 120 roughly. Looks like a mid-move consolidation for a further move to the upside. Top of the channel, they're up to 127,000. We're looking for the top of the channel by the end of this month. That might be pushing it a bit now, given that obviously that rises all the time. The peak of 123, I suppose, is something that we can be happy with anyway, given the previous call of 125,000 by the end of this month. On the downside, 115,000 is hopefully what the lowest will go to, but we have to factor in 112,000, the old May resistance, and we can at least stay above 112. Then by the end of next month, we could be on a best case scenario target at the top of that red rising trend channel at 142,000. Next on the list is gold, and here it's all about whether we can stay within the rising trend channel, which has been in place since beginning of April. The floor of the channel there around 3,300 rather. Above that, we're looking for at least the an April resistance line at 3430. Above that would be the sunlit uplands of the top of the channel, 3800. Hopefully as soon as the end of next month, but obviously given that this is a largely geopolitical driven market, maybe at 3800, there may be time for tin hats. On the downside, if we do break down below the floor of the channel, we've got the late June support there around 3220 as hopefully the first port of call. The RSI is still above neutral 50, so that gives this market a positive slant, as does the rising 50-day line there, 3322. Moving on to the stocks, and in fact, a company which is related to the gold area. We've got ACG, and here we've got this wide rising trend channel. We broke above the 200-day line back in June, and since then we've had a step fashion rise, so vertical, sideways, vertical, etc. Gaps to the upside as well, so this looks like a very strong situation. Hopefully as high as £10 by the end of the next month at the current rate of progression. We've got the 50 and 200-day lines rising, and mostly, as you can see, blue candles. There are only three red candles since the beginning of May, which so it's a record, but it's quite an achievement. Ideally, we stay on the right side of the recent resistance around the £5.88 level. Ideally, the last or the second last gap to the upside, 6.35. So, best case scenario is we stay above 6.35 ahead of a move towards £10. Onto Argo Blockchain, which seems to be rising as if it's 2021, not 2025. Here we've had a break out of that falling trend channel there. That was a key thing to do. 3.15 pence above that, looking for up to 5.5 pence. Dare we say that this company is back in business? Had a gap close buy signal as well. We had the overshoot to the downside through the floor of this falling trend channel. So a few positive points there on a technical basis. The last of which is the way that the 50-day line is now rising. When it rises near the low, that can be a sign of a lasting turnaround. Best case scenario here is that we fill the gap up to 7.7 pence, which would be certainly quite a coup. On to Audioboom, which I suppose has acknowledged that its revenues aren't quite up to scratch by actually buying a company in the UK, a podcast company, and hopefully that will make everything add up a bit better than it has so far. A bear trap gap reversal, which is actually one of our favorite turnaround signals. So we've got the market gapping back up through the April support there around 304, and minimum on the upside, hopefully around 404, 405, which was May resistance above that. Hopefully this will be the time the shares go up and stay up, because obviously in the recent past, every time there's been a rally, some pesky seller has come in, and not yet clear whether that pesky seller has actually gone for good. But let's hope that they have. Moving along to a stock which I haven't covered quite a while, and you'll see probably from the chart why, because it's been in a rather dire bear trend. But we've got the first sign of a turnaround here with Cadence. The 50-day line is rising, lots of blue candles so far this month. In fact, only blue candles so far this month, which must be a bit of a record for the stock. We've also had extended support for the RSI, for the stock at RSI 50 over the course of the last couple of weeks, at least two sustained bounces. Initial resistance 1.9 pence, which is the 200-day line, but above that could get as high as 2.4 pence by the end of next month. But this does look like a turnaround in the sense we had a final overshoot to the downside below 1.4 pence, and then a turnaround there. So maybe the seller is actually out on that stock. GS Chain is another stock which doesn't get covered very much, and here it is now with a triangle breakout. You can see the breakthrough 0.25 pence above that. We're looking basically for the resistance on the way down around 0.65 by the end of next month, or even sooner. Ideally, we stay on the right side of the 50-day moving average around 0.35 pence. Said during the week that Harena looks as though it's ready for a turnaround, and I think one or two people have noticed that as well. Would it be helpful if they changed the name on SharePad or ShareScope to Harena rather than Citius? But we've had two very strong candles, one breaking the falling wedge around 1.05, and the second breaking the 50-day line at 1.25 above that. We're looking for up to 2.1 pence at the top of that broadening triangle base from March by the end of next month. On to Hydrogen Utopia, which has been in the wars of late. But what's interesting, or what was interesting, on Friday is the shares were actually up 10%. Not a stock where people accidentally buy the shares. I can tell you that from the history of the shares. And obviously, you can see in the past, any rise in the shares has been smashed down like a tennis player. And current situation is that we've got this uptrend line there around the 1.25 pence level. Above that, looking for the shares to break a resistance line at 1.6. But the best case scenario probably over the next 2 to 4 weeks, filling the gap up to 2.25 pence from the beginning of last month. That's also the area of the 200-day line. But obviously the key is that we hold recent support around 1.3 pence. Moving along to Predator, where it seems that shares are finally having their day in the sun. Broken through the 200-day line, we've got a rising 50-day line, and the initial target here at 5.4 pence has been hit. Above that, looking for 8p by the end of next month, or even sooner, which is the upper parallel of that rising March trend channel base. The shares going up as we were expecting there, despite various fundamental doubts on the company in terms of where it is heading next. Moving along to seed innovations, and here the magic is that we are rising after a ricochet off or from below the 50-day line there, around 2p. Initial target here, the June resistance around 2.4, but actually we're really looking for 3.2p by the end of next month. It looks as though the shares are finally on their way. In fact, one can probably take away that resistance line. This looks like a decent rebound. It's like a gap floor rebound there at 1.9p. So hopefully the shares will keep on going. On to the last few. The first one is Thruvision, where there are some psychic investors in this stock. The current situation is that we gapped up at the beginning of the month, and we've held or the halfway position at the gap, which is normally a bullish sign. Just need an end of day close through the 50-day line around 1.3p, 1.33p, to maybe get us a move up to the 200-day moving average and old February resistance at 4.5p, maybe by the end of next month. Obviously, more realistic would be a move up to 2p there and post March resistance for the shares. But the trigger is to see the shares back above that 50-day line one more time. On to Tau, which has also obeyed our charting rules. And here, in the run up to a golden cross, the initial target here was 0.043. Looking forward now up to 0.055 by the end of next month, which is obviously post-October resistance for the shares. Finishing off with Westminster Group, which seems to have a new contract almost every other day. Rising trend channel here, top of the channel there, up to 4p. We're looking for that by the end of next month, while we remain above the 50-day line at 2.3p. So the 50 and 200-day lines now starting to rise. So hopefully that will drag the shares back up from the main 3p resistance. That's it from me today. More updates during the week.